Hey, good morning. We're in Psalm 88 today. And this is one of those Psalms that are hard to read. It's a lament, it's a petition, but it doesn't really resolve. It doesn't lead us to a place of hope, per se. I'll read, it's a long one, so I probably won't read the whole Psalm. I'll skip around, but I do have some thoughts about it. Lord, you are the God who saves me. Day and night I cry out to you. May my prayer come before you. Turn your ear to my cry. I'm overwhelmed with troubles, and my life draws near to death. I am counted among those who go down to the pit. I'm like one without strength. I'm set apart with the dead, like the slain who lay in the grave, whom you remember no more, who are cut off from your care. You've put me in the lowest pit, in the darkest depths. Your wrath lies heavily on me. You've overwhelmed me with all your waves. You've taken from me my closest friends and have made me repulsive to them. I am confined and cannot escape. My eyes are dim with grief. I call to you, Lord, every day. I spread out my hands to you. Do you show your wonders to the dead? Do their spirits rise up and praise you? Is your love declared in the grave, your faithfulness in destruction? Are your wonders known in the place of darkness, or your righteous deeds in the land of oblivion? But I cry out to you, Lord, for help. In the morning my prayer comes before you. Why, Lord, do you reject me and hide from your face from me? Okay, so one of the things that I want you to understand is that there's a progressive development theologically in the scriptures. I've heard that there's a famous megachurch pastor who has basically said we have to unhinge our beliefs from the Old Testament. I find that to be unintelligible because really you can't understand anything of the New Testament without the foundations of the Old. In fact, it's out of the richness of the Old Testament that allows us to ascend to the heights of the New Testament. And we know that Jesus himself looked back and said, you can't dismiss these. In fact, all of those scriptures point to me. In fact, one of the most beautiful passages for me is in Luke 24, when Jesus, after his resurrection on the way to Emmaus, finds two disciples and explains all the Old Testament, the law and the prophets, as pointing to him. That would be a Bible study that I would want. However, in the Old Testament, we don't find completed doctrinal thoughts that we do in the New. Here's one example. They had no doctrine, imagination for the resurrection. It just simply wasn't part of their thinking. It wasn't a construct in their minds. They had a loose kind of understanding of something called Sheol, Hades, but it's not well developed doctrinally. It does not ascend to glory. It's a dark place. They call it here the place of darkness, the land of oblivion. And so when you died in Hebrew imagination, right, it was unclear exactly what happened. There are hints here and there, but it's not really well developed as a thought. And so really the law of God was for the life you had on earth. It was supposed to kind of help lead you into the world in the best sorts of ways so that you arrived at shalom, prosperity, righteousness, right, the whole bit. So here we find the psalmist saying, listen, if you allow all these things to kill me, what good is that to you? The dead don't praise you. Those who go to the grave, they can't worship you. They can't acknowledge you. And here we see that the New Testament completes the thought of the Old. Because now we know, and we have an imagination because of Jesus, who goes through death and is resurrected and given a resurrected body and now exists with God at his right hand in heaven, which is the place where God's will is perfectly kept, right? It's not a material place, in other words. It's God's dimension. Jesus is with him at his right hand, and we know that when we die, we go to be with God in his dimension, and we believe fully that I have an imagination for a consciousness at that place that perhaps the saints in Hebrews are cheering us on, aware of what's happening here, but knowing that the completed nature of this course is that we will as well be given resurrected bodies like Jesus by faith and inhabit God's new creation, the new heavens and the new earth, and the picture of the Jerusalem coming down and existing, where the veil between the material and immaterial is ripped in two, and now we exist with God and He with us in a new form and fashion. That imagination for our resurrected life, for consciousness, for glory, for a future, indeterminate but glorious and beautiful, comes out of the New Testament. So even when we read this psalm and we sense the heaviness, we sense the weight of it, and some of us that language can be very helpful to us. We get to express very hard things, despair. Actually, the New Testament informs this so that we know that the grave is not the end of our lives. We have a hope that goes through the grave, a life after death, right? So there's life after death, and there's a life after death. I know that's an N.T. Wright phrase. It may be confusing. I may have to unpack it later. But there is something that happens when we die, and something further that happens when Jesus comes again. That resurrected life fully expressed. So maybe as we read this psalm, we think about what Jesus reveals that is true, that they could not understand completely in this time when they wrote this psalm. Grace and peace to you.